incredible scenes here last Sunday as crowds flooded the beach in The Hague to witness Volvo Ocean Race history. They still didn't know who was going to win. Any of the top 3 teams could take it. The final miles, captivating. Matt Frey and Team Brunel running west down to the Finnish Dongfeng race team, and Charles Caudrelier at the helm, taking a carefully considered but still audacious move to split from their rivals. Who'd be right? Well, after 9 months and 45,000 miles, Dongfeng race team took the dramatic win. It's been a superb stopover this week here in The Hague, and a huge appetite from the public to come and see the fleet for themselves. For the Dutch, well, they treat this race really as their own, having won it 4 times. It all goes back to the indomitable gentleman, adventurer, raconteur, 2-time winner, Connie van Rietshausen, a man who sparked many a childhood dream to follow in his footsteps. The turnout here has been quite incredible. Not to mention the famous sailing clog that's been travelling around the world, keeping fans' feet dry and promoting the stopover here in The Hague. And the prospect of another win for a home team added extra spice to the Volvo mad crowd in Holland. It didn't go quite their way, but it hasn't dampened the spirit. Bouwbecking, 8-time race veteran, stopped at every street corner for a photo or a chat. Welcome everybody to Holland Den Haag and the final race. We've got it going on today. It'll be a wonderful celebration of sailing. But before we do that, Sally, let's look back at that incredible finish. The last 200 miles, Dongfeng race team had to make a crucial decision.
That's right, and they made a decision based on, the information they had coming into that leg, the pre-plan they had, and they stuck to their guns and they made an awesome show for us all.
Right, and it was extremely difficult, stressful on board. They had to take a loss initially to get the gain later.
That's right, and it was all about the last, couple hours into the finish after they turned the actual corner, and everybody else had to come in on a VMG more downwind, so it was all about the wind angle and reading the wind angle about 18-24 hours ahead of time.
But they didn't know until the last couple of hours there was big celebration.
That's right, and it was amazing. For those of you that can see the tracker, it was the gains they made over just the last couple hours was just, thrilling.
Excellent, and well, they had to be a formidable opposition in Matt Frey. They were a polished team, and they also had to make that critical call, but they had 2 other boats to worry about, Dongfeng and Brunel.
They did, and when both of your opponents split, you have quite a decision to make, and they unfortunately made it just a little bit late. If they could look back in hindsight, I want to know what happens if they made it at the right time and didn't make a loss going into that other TSS, and maybe were 2 miles ahead of the game, and that might have just been the difference for a port starboard at the final turning mark.
And after such a long journey, 45,000 miles around the world, difficult for a team that was pumped as potential winners in the last final miles, difficult for them.
For sure, and we saw a bit of a rhythm change for Matt Frey in the last half of the race, but super hard for all of them on board. They were such a strong team, and they put such a big effort in, and they've been going so strong for the last couple of years in this race, so we hope we see them back on the line.
Yeah, but that being said, they're pretty happy with their performance. They came second again, a great performance from a very polished team. Happy,
very happy, and winning the import race with one race to spare just means that that they were already really a polished team, and they could actually sail the boat in certain situations way better than everybody else.
And Bouwbecking, what a competitor to be down and out in Auckland and to be able to come back an incredible second half of the race, to be right in it into their home port.
Yeah, amazing. And if you were here on shore for the final couple hours of that leg, it was Brunel everywhere, and it was Bouwbecking. Everybody was cheering. They still had a last-minute chance there at the end, and to have that, I think those boys must be super proud.
And in Auckland, they had a big sit-down. They had to get it together, and they clearly did. Why? How?
They did. They had a big sit-down. They learned a lot about each other personally, which helped their communication style on board and the dynamics of how they were working. So if you talk to any of the crew, they're really proud of that because they really learned a lot about each other and themselves. And that's really, when it comes down to it, that's what it takes offshore.
And their crucial moment across the North Sea when they rolled over first Dongfeng and then Matt Frey showed that they had a real chance to win this race.
Yeah, and you can go back on some of the footage, you can see some of the differences in how they sailed the boat at that angle, and they were just powering over the fleet at that moment, and they should be super proud of that because they found a groove in these Volvo 65s that nobody found yet.
Well, it was was the most exciting final leg in Volvo Ocean Race history. Let's take a look in a little more detail at how the drama played out.
You know, we've tacked out now, we're above everybody, and hopefully we can gain back some ground on them.
Right now the position is not too bad, and we have now to be fast and still pushing. So it was the first big step of this leg. Next one will be the north one.
Don't leave too much, Pascal.
We're in the lead of Norway, so it's quite light. We've got Brunel right behind us, just to windward. Looking like we should be in our hills later today.
Yes, they are moving.
Oh, it doesn't seem like many of these ships are going our way at the moment.
Back up to Norway again. Waypoint's not as far as the first one, so that's where we're heading right now. We've been to a light patch. We've got Mapfre to leeward of us. Had a little bit of a battle with them in the transition zone, flapping around in no wind. And that also gave the opportunity for the back of the fleet to catch up a little bit.
Very happy after being 2 days just following Phnom Penh like half a mile away. Right now we have them like 2 miles to leeward and stern of us, and then we have Axonabel and Brunel abreast us, actually behind us between 5 and 7 miles. So very happy, and hopefully we can keep this position.
And we managed to catch up now with Matt Friend on Thing and Vestas, so it's actually pretty close now between the top 5 boats. Stress on board them, we're just enjoying it, sailing as fast as we can, and hopefully then win the leg.
Yeah, we're not quite sure whether Mapfre and Dongfeng going inside or outside this TSS we're coming up to. We're definitely obviously going outside.
Regarde la différence.
Now, far behind the other guy from the west.
We win or we lost of 2 hours, but not 1 hour.
Alors, wait and see, Transfinger.
It's us!
Well, it's not all decided. Still a few positions to play for on the water here this afternoon during the Brunel import race. Mapfre can't be challenged at the top, having clinched the import race series in Gothenburg. However, Sunhunkai Scallywag and Turn the Tide on Plastic are on equal points for 6th place in the overall standings. But David Witt's Scallywags currently have the advantage in the import race series. So it's all eyes on Di Kafari's young team to see if they can pull one out of the bag and put 2 boats between them and their rivals to decide 6th and 7th overall. There's also a battle between Dutch teams Axo Nobel and Team Brunel for the final podium spot in the import race series, with just 2 points separating the teams. Kafari just enjoying the day. The breeze is also up. We've got about 10 to 12 knots, maybe a little more. The fans out for Team Brunel in force. It was amazing. Matt Frey there just going down on the Sailors Terrace, led by Dongfeng Race Team, the overall winners. Smiles everywhere. Look at the crowds, the atmosphere. Wonderful. Now let's give you the race course. The start is going to be downwind today, so that should add a little extra something to the start, all the way downwind. It's about 1.1 miles to the leeward gate. They can go around either of those two gates. Then upwind to gate number 2. It's 3 laps around. We could see plenty of action today. Remember the battle between Turn the Tide on Plastic and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. There they go, up to the finish. And also a bit of a battle between Brunel and Team Axo Nobel. The wind brought to you by Vestas Wind from their climatological data, their wind farms all around the world, showing a little lighter on the shore. That is because there's buildings there and a little breezier offshore, so maybe the offshore position is the way to go, but we'll have to see. 0.85 at around 14 knots we got right now, latest from Bill O'Hara at the race committee boat. So down here we go to live pictures. Here are all the boats picking their way through a huge spectator fleet. Down on the water we've got Nick Bice and Richard Mason. What say you, boys?
Oh, I tell you what, hundreds of spectator boats out here today to view and witness what is going to be an epic race. Richard and I were just discussing how much pride is actually on the line here in this last race of the Volvo Ocean Race, and I'll tell you what, if someone takes a little starboard tack chance here at the start, that could be the go. What do you think, Maso?
Yeah, that's going to be all on. We're going to have a downwind start here. We can see the boats manoeuvring around behind us, about 2:30 to go. Lovely conditions with 10 to 12 knots out of the northeast, so they'll pop onto the downwind sails. If someone's coming through on starboard, they'll push everyone down the line, so all to play for.
Who's your bet on coming through on starboard?
I got a couple of boats in mind. I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Those two are going to have some good chats down on the water. Just remind them their mics are live all the time, lads, so careful what you say. With 2 minutes to go. Up in the helicopter, our eye in the sky. Conrad Coleman, what say you?
Well, it is a spectacular day. Absolutely. I do indeed.
Well,
I can hear you now. No, can't hear me.
Joined by Sally Barkow, always giving us wonderful, cool, calm insight. Plenty on here right now on board with Dongfeng. Sally, breeze, conditions, tide.
Breeze, conditions, tide. It's going to be tricky. Not only all that, they have this downwind start, which we haven't seen in a very long time, if at all, this race, for an import race. It makes the time and distance for these boats quite difficult because they are going to have to deploy their, big head sails as they go downwind, and the timing of that is quite hard. When do you deploy? How do you accelerate? And how do you position your boat port on starboard here? Like the boys said down there, there could be a boat coming across on starboard and taking the whole fleet out.
Yeah, so this is going to be very tricky. So for those of you new to sailing, even at the end of this 9-month battle, if you're on starboard, if the breeze is coming from the right, as it is with Dongfeng Race Team, you're on starboard. If you're on the other jibe, the breeze coming over the left-hand side of the deck into the sails, you're on port tack. So at the moment, we've got on starboard Dongfeng Race Team. On port right now, Axo Nobel in the middle of the fleet. They're jibing. I'm looking at everyone starting on starboard. Looks okay from where we are. And Dongfeng Race Team coming from quite well behind, as are Matt Frey, with 25 seconds to go. Some of the boats much closer to the line, Sally.
That's right, and we have, basically Brunel there and Axo Nobel just deploying quite close to the line. It's going to make it hard turn down.
Well, here we go for the Brunel import race start after 45,000 miles of fun, adventure, and the closest ever race. This is the final start. Team Brunel just at the pin end of the line, doing very nicely, putting the bow down. 3 seconds to go, 2, and it looks like the gun goes. Team Brunel takes the best of the start. Just behind them, Vestas 11th Hour Racing to windward, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Dongfeng Race Team in the middle with Vestas 11th Hour Racing, and on board right now with Team Brunel. I've got the best of the start, Pete Burling. You'd expect that. Let's go up to the helicopter and see if Conrad Coleman can hear us from his perspective. Go, Conrad.
I can hear you now, and what a start. Absolute cracker there for home favourite Team Brunel. And no major excitement. We didn't see any upsets like Nick and Richard were expecting. Beautiful clean start. A little bit of a tussle here in the middle between Vestas and Sunkai Scallywag. It's going to be interesting to see whether Sunkai Scallywag can continue to roll over the top and can actually dominate them as the league goes on.
Okay, we're on board with Di Kafari now. Not her best start, and looks like Blendenmon is driving. Didn't get the best out of it. They just got rolled a little bit by Sun Hunkai Scallywag, and now Dongfeng are to Luada, then pushing them up a little bit. Sun Hunkai Scallywag currently ahead in that little battle. Team Brunel, brilliant pictures from the drone. Seb driving it beautifully just to windward, and Team Brunel have got their masthead A0 out, and they have got a nice bit of breeze. You see, they're not getting fought with the boats behind them. They're at a different angle there, Sally.
That's right. They have the benefit of starting to windward on the line, and basically that's clear air all the way for them. And with these big A3s, they're able to soak a little bit when they have the pressure, and they'll probably be able to lead the jibe when it comes time to that ley line. You see the other boats sort of stacked up on their hip there.
Driving, Pete Burling. He knows how to do these races.
He does, and he probably has a bit more insight about the angle he needs to be sailing downwind to extend away from this fleet.
Okay, let's go down on the water for the latest with Bicey and Meso.
Yeah, right alongside Scallywag here at the moment, looking good. Brunel beautifully popped out in a nice little bit of breeze there. And then we got Vestas and Dongfeng stacked up nicely behind them, so it's super tight here in this bunch. They'll all be looking for that soaking mode just to gain a metre or an inch here or there. It's going to be all four to play for on this side of the racetrack. Bicey.
Yeah, what we can see, the boats going offshore look to be in a bit more breeze. So Axel Nobel and Matt Frey being left behind, as a matter of fact, but we'll see if any little gusts get down to them.
And Bicey down there, Di Kafari not getting the best of the first exchange between her and David Witt. She's got to try and get ahead of them and then put 2 points behind them. Not looking so good right now.
And first blood to Whitty on that one. But Dee's just rolling over the top of Dongfeng, believe it or not, right at the moment. So she might be on the nice little comeback.
Yeah, and it looks like the boats to leeward, Matt Frey, and aren't looking too good down there, Bicey.
No, you're right. In a bit less pressure, which could be shielded a little bit from this massive spectator fleet. It's phenomenal out here, and we're pretty glad the marshals are doing a good job out here, because we wouldn't want this size spectator fleet in the middle of the field at all.
Yeah, beautiful pictures that we're looking at of the leader, Brunel, second place, Sun Hunkai Scallywag, third, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, then in fourth it's Dongfeng race team, then turned the tide on plastic. Way out to leeward on the left-hand side, who started towards that boat end in slightly lighter conditions. Now jibing just off now is Team Axo Nobel and Matt Frey. Axo Nobel jibing away, so they don't like where they are at all, and I think that looks bad for them, Sally.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the original wind graphics that there's probably less wind inshore there, you know, due to being closer to land, less flow, and I think that's telling all right now. We'll see if Team Axo Nobel actually able to make some gains, just because they might be able to sail in some clear air, but to me it might be some lighter pressure. Yeah, it's been great to get that data from all of the wind farms all around the world, and they crunch it down to a micro level so that we can actually see it. And in some of the import races, it's actually turned out to be extremely valuable information. When the breeze shifts and comes from the land, it's lighter as you go as you come off the beach, and that's because the wind gets slowed down by the buildings and the crowds. Look at that, beautiful pictures of the lighthouse there at the end of the harbour in Den Haag as Team Brunel go for a little showboating, a little fairy tale win. They got a great start with Peter Burling at the helm, and then it's Team Axo Nobel. They look like they found a nice bit of breeze on that left-hand side as Brunel lead on the right-hand side all the way out to the bottom mark. And I think it's just going to be a one jibe and in towards the bottom. I say Team Axo Nobel looks good, but from this position here, they've got a long way to get to come around Team Brunel, but they're giving it everything they can, and that's what it's all about, tactics and strategy down the race course. Up in the helicopter for the latest, Conrad.
Yeah, absolutely. You say that that Team Brunel has done a blinder here, and they've been able to sail in cleaner breeze. They're not getting disturbed in the pack that has 4 boats further up to windward. I would expect Team Brunel to be preparing for their jibe now. They're not far off the ley line for that lower gate, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because it's clear that the offshore side is paying, so I'd expect them to be going in back upwind on that side as well. Here's Team Brunel rolling right into their jibe right now.
So Team Brunel go for the jibe. Thanks very much for that, Conrad. And I'm sure all of you will know Conrad from the wonderful daily shows all the way around the world, 9 months of it. He's had some early mornings and some late nights keeping up with all of the action. We're on board right now with Team Brunel. Thanks to all of you who've followed either now or any time over the last 9 months. All of you watching on Facebook, we get all your comments. Tell us what you've thought of the race and how much you've enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you, where you're watching from and when, particularly, you're next going sailing. Get out on the water. It's a great summer for it for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, you can see there now, jibing Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Outside jibe, Sally.
Yep, nice outside jibe. Really nice job floating, as we say. The clue around the head stay there. Nice ease on the sheet. It's all about the timing and the turning of the wheel. And then as they trim on, you know, David can turn the wheel up a bit and then start to accelerate. But that was quite smooth.
Yeah, and they've got Ryan Fisher on board, John Fisher's son, as their very special guest today. He'll be having quite an emotional day, I suspect. Great to have him on board with Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and as ever, John Fisher is named on the crew list and always is with us. Team Brunel coming down towards the bottom mark, just behind them Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Looks like they've got a pretty decent bit of breeze, and Team Axo Nobel way in the distance there between those two boats. Might have found something on that left-hand side. Let's go down to the water, Richard Mason.
Yeah, looking nice there. Just watching a nice bit of pressure coming in from the right-hand side with Axel Nobel, but they've got quite a long way to come into the mark here. So Brunel just looking a little bit lighter. We can just see the spinnaker going a little bit flex on them now, so they're in a bit of no man's land. They've got about 5 or 6 boat lengths to go before they'll pick up that breeze. And we've got this other bunch on the left-hand side here, led by Scallywag. They're just bringing some nice pressure in, so we could see a bit of compression coming into this mark. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, certainly they've got the rubber band effect at this bottom mark, and we're going to see some pretty close things. So be on your toes, Andy, up in the booth. This is going to be a good one.
Okay, wonderful. And let's just go up to the helicopter really quickly, because it looks like Team Axo Nobel jibed in a great bit of breeze about 5 minutes ago. Conrad, they're coming in hot.
Well, coming in hot. It looks like it's gone pretty soft, actually, and they are kind of in a tricky situation. Team Brunel, they've got their jib up in preparation for the mark rounding, but now it looks like they're just trying to squeeze in front of Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. The wind has gone light for them. They've gone an early furl and actually are dropping the A3 out of the way. But it is a slow motion drag race to that mark rounding. As Sun Hun Kai Scallywag comes in, they're overlapped. They've got rights. So this is the slowest, most dramatic moment of the race so far. But it's slow.
Brilliant from Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They got that little extra bit of puff, and they managed to, despite a rather awkward mark round, and get inside Team Brunel, and that's all they needed to do. They used the rules beautifully, and now Team Brunel are luffing Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, who need to keep clear. David Witt's got to keep clear, otherwise there's going to be a flag on the play, and that looks very close. Bottom of screen right there. Windward boat is Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, lured Team Brunel, and it looks like David Witt has just managed to keep clear. Peter Burling doing a nice job of getting out of that situation. Green flag, there we go from the umpire. So that means no incident. Sally, talk us through that situation. Well, hold on a sec, because we've got another incident here with Turn the Tide on Plastic, just getting inside Dongfeng race team for a decent rounding on Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dongfeng race team still furling up their masthead code 0, and now Lennon driving the Kafari skippered boat. They've done a brilliant job of this. They're very smooth around the top, around the bottom mark. They've got to try and catch up David Witt, and this will be helping them, because David Witt didn't have the greatest around. He went for the inside, tried to get the lead, but now he's actually slowed down quite a bit as Team Brunel have tacked away, and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag cannot now tack because Vestas 11th Hour Racing are on starboard and are stopping them being able to tack. Quite bumpy in this North Sea chop, shallow, relatively shallow water around here, and the ocean can get bumped up and down quite a bit. Here we go. Standings right now, these are live standings with Team Brunel leading with Axo Nobel way out on the right-hand side. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. This then shows you the overall standings on the right-hand side as we are right now. So Matt Frey, we know, leading. This is the import race series results. Dongfeng race team remain as second, Axo Nobel third. But Team Brunel, you see, have got a boat on them, so they are nudging up within a point now of Team Axo Nobel. So there's plenty battle there. And that means Team Turn the Tide on Plastic are not going to overtake one in the overall series, but if Team Brunel can put another boat on Team Axo Nobel, that will give them a podium position in the import race series. Well, we're going to keep you up with those machinations as they emerge, and we're looking over the race course. All the boats now on port, heading upwind. Team Brunel look like they're in a very comfortable position there, Sarah.
They do, and that was quite a jostling around there. Some opportunities gained and lost, but quite interesting here. Now you have Turn the Tide coming up the middle of the fleet. And there's a chance here that they can work themselves through the middle of this fleet, and who knows if Scallywag, who are far on the left-hand side here of the screen, right at the bottom there, they might get pinned out on the left-hand side of the course. And maybe we'll see a little bit of change-up, but Axo Nobel are doing a great job, I think, of staying out of the mix and gone pretty much from last to second and holding onto their position.
Yeah, they're going for that inshore. Is that a bit of tide there, maybe? The tide coming down the screen, I believe, Sally.
Yeah, we might have to go down to the boys on the water to get the full tide change and everything. It's a little bit tricky in there.
Very good. Well, let's throw it down to Bicey. We're looking at the whole fleet all heading inshore. Is there a tidal advantage?
Yeah, I think the guys inshore are going to get a little bit of a relief, and maybe that is why Simeon Tampont and his team were very happy to go in there. But I'll tell you what, it's pretty tough out here, and with all this spectator craft and all the bouts, and I thought we just almost lost Meso, to tell you the truth.
Oh, well, I tell you, somebody would buy you a few beers probably if you pushed him over. He'd get a little dip. But Bicey, my heart really bleeds for you down there on the water with the wind and the sun, just having to avoid one or two spectator boats. What a beautiful scene, and we're not going to be very sympathetic here. We have to turn the air conditioning off in our commentary booth. It's getting hot. Anyway, here we are with Sun Hun Kai Scallywag to windward of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Great pictures again from the drone. It's going to be a beautiful way of covering sailing in the future, and great to have them right now. Up in the helicopter, in the big drone, it's Conrad Coleman.
That's right, and just to confirm, the tide is going against the boats at the moment, and certainly there is a lot more wind on the left-hand side, so I think it's going to be interesting to see Brunel cross, it looks like ahead of Team Axo Nobel right now. Remember, they went through the gate at similar times, but it looks like Team Brunel has been stronger in the middle. But just look at the separation. If you go back all the way to the back of the fleet, you have Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Team Brunel and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag went around that bottom mark at the same time, and Brunel, in comparison, have pulled an absolute blinder. They navigated the traffic really, really well. They put themselves in a strong, commanding position up the middle of the fleet, whereas Sun Hun Kai Scallywag got locked out. Vestas kept them out all the way on the left-hand side, and it looks like they're really struggling in comparison.
And Conrad, tell us, it looks like there's an opportunity for Dee Kafari and her team to get back in it and to get back at Sun Hun Kai Scallywag as they've slipped down a little.
Well, yeah, very, very definitely. More on the right-hand side or the middle of the field where Turn the Tide on Plastic is a stronger position, because when they come across, they're going to be on starboard, they're going to have rights, and you know, getting stuck on the left-hand side when you're going upwind is a really dangerous and quite a weak position overall in the fleet tactics.
So that's where Sun Hun Kai Scallywag are right now. Thank you very much, Conrad, there up in the helicopter. So Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, then Vestas 11th Hour Racing, but looking very strong there in the middle of the race course to give something back is Turn the Tide on Plastic, right in the centre of screen. Now coming across, the only boat on starboard now, Team Axo Nobel. So they're in the top 4 or so. They are just trying to make sure that they stay nice and close to Team Brunel, because Team Brunel only need to get 1 point in one boat in between the two of them, and then they can take the 3rd place in the import race series over Team Axo Nobel. So we'll keep a close eye on how that plays out. Look, there's a cross coming up here, and it's Turn the Tide on Plastic and Team Axo Nobel. Oh, they're going to go for it. Oh, it was a duck. So, Sally, talk us through that. Axel Nobel on starboard.
That's right, a clear port starboard there, Axel Nobel. What might have happened, obviously, Turn the Tide on Plastic went for a cross, and either they might have given him a wave across, basically. So it should have been clear. Basically, they don't want him to attack on front of him, so they might wave him across.
Yeah, this is what you have to do right there. Vestas 11th Hour Racing ducking under Team Axel Nobel, and that wasn't the greatest of ducks, but what we saw from those moments when Turn the Tide on Plastic passed Francesca Klapčić on the main, she was looking across, as was Blended Mon, at Team Axel Nobel to see if they were okay with that, because sometimes if you're on starboard, you can actually wave the boat on port past you, Sally. Why do you do that?
You do that because you don't want that boat ahead of you to tack in front of you and give you bad air, and so you let them go past, and that way you can keep your nose clear and choose when to attack, and yeah, choose your battles basically.
And so Axel Nobel allowed. Oh no, they didn't.
They didn't.
No. Red flag. Turn the Tide on Plastic, get penalised, and that was them just left of screen right there, doing their penalty turns. Oh, I feel for them. Hey, that was. There's no quarter given here, is there?
That's horrible because they actually had a little leg out. They were seeing some opportunities there. You know, it's a hard one because you might take the risk there because they have a lot to gain on this course to actually make a difference in the overall results. So they probably went for it. Unlucky.
Oh, well, that is racing, and when it's close, there's nothing to be given away for sure. There's Turn the Tide on Plastic now having finished completed their turns. Oh dear, painful for them. So Team Brunel now leading into the top mark, picking their way through the spectator fleet. We've got people watching all around the world. Where can I see? Captiva Island, Florida. Newport, Rhode Island. We've got a lot of Americans on this morning. We've got Kowau Island, New Zealand. Great to have you all here. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're going sailing. Lake Superior. Bayfield Race Week next week. Sail Newport Regatta. Lovely. Derby, UK. Cows Week. They're off to Inverness, Peterboroughs. Going down to the Western Isles on a 40-footer. Good for you. Grassonville, Maryland. Okay, here we go. Back to the racing. You can see all the boats here. Team Axel Nobel on port. Dongfeng Race Team on starboard. Talk us through this, Sally.
That's Dongfeng just putting an attack right in front of Axel Nobel. They're on starboard, Axel Nobel on port. As long as they complete their attack before the overlap, they're all in the clear. And then the game is going to be, can Axel Nobel power over the top of Dongfeng, or do they actually gain their speed enough after the attack to hold their own lane there?
Well, a real problem here for Team Axel Nobel because they've been slowed down there by Dongfeng Race Team. Brunel are winning, and there is a boat between them and Team Axel Nobel. So this is for third place on the overall standings of the Import Race Series. So a mini battle going on all around here, and this is for Dutch pride for sure. And who's got the Dutch courage to get that Dutch pride out? And at the moment, it's Team Brunel leading up to gate 2. Team Brunel leading around the windward mark. The fans' favourites here in The Hague doing brilliantly. Bauer Becking at the helm. Team Brunel lead with a comfortable margin. Now they've got a that's a jibe set from Team Brunel.
Really nice call there. Obviously, you see the spectator fleet right in front of them. They need to jibe. Now they're actually going to be on the long jibe all the way down to the mark.
Yeah, so that's good. And Vestas 11th Hour Racing have managed to squeeze ahead of Turn the Tide on Plastic as they come into this top mark. They can choose either of the top marks, Sally.
You can choose either of the top marks, and sometimes it's about just having a clear entry into the mark or getting on the favored jibe first on the run.
Yeah, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag just a little slow there. The choppy waters and a little bit of tide against is making it quite difficult. Can Vestas 11th Hour Racing lay this other mark? Dongfeng Race Team around ahead. Just behind them, Team Axel Nobel. So Dongfeng Race Team second, Team Axel Nobel in third, Vestas 11th Hour Racing fourth, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag in fifth. Very slow as they go around the mark here. They've had to squeeze it up and just got to now deploy the masthead code 0. Dongfeng much quicker to it.
Yep, Dongfeng there. I think that's the A3 there, Andy. They're just cruising downwind on it. Nice deploy. Quite late deploy here on Axel Nobel. I wonder if they have a little bit of a hiccup. It's going to be hard for them to regain that boat speed on Dongfeng.
Vestas 11th Air Racing with a very fast deploy there at the top mark. Then Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, then Turn the Tide on Plastic, then Matt Frey. Very happy, I'm sure, just pottering around in 7th place, are they? Not quite where Dee wants to be though, Sally.
Not at all. You know, I think obviously that was a huge hiccup to not read that port starboard situation correctly. You need really clear comms to cross as a port boat there and not have the starboard boat protest you. Just a shame to see. The problem is that it was such a big duck. It was also going to be a loss for them to go for the big duck.
Okay, Turn the Tide on Plastic, jibe around this second windward mark gate. It is very busy down there, spectator fleet, but snuck in amongst them somewhere is Nick Bice.
I was just wondering, with the majority of the fleet going to the left-hand mark and Bauer Becken going to the right-hand mark.
Scallywag have caught the mark, Bicey. Tell us about Scallywag. They've caught the mark.
They have got the mainsail completely let out. The jib on the wrong side. They're heading the wrong way with the mark hooked around them. They couldn't. This is all on now for Turn the Tide on Plastics.
Oh my word, and I tell you, there is drama anytime you go out on the water, and definitely anytime you watch the Volvo Ocean Race. Look at this. Well, what does this mean? This means that Dee Kafari can potentially offset that penalty. She can catch up. She can put a boat in between them. Look at this. Dee Kafari sailing around David Witt, who's tied to the mark. That is not a good thing.
Oh, no. This is just hands on foreheads. Just crazy.
Oh, look at Blenheim. He's got the bit between his teeth. He can see an opportunity. He's like, you kidding me? We got a chance of getting back in this. And they're still stuck. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag still trying to get their keel is wrapped around the mark. And the problem is they're going downwind, so it's making it worse.
Exactly, and they actually have the tide pushing them down onto this mark, so they need to kind of spin this boat around because you can't reverse going downwind, so they need to spin it around and go the other way and try to clear their rudders.
Well, it's not quite enough. If Matt Frey get ahead of Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, looks like they're about to do that. That's one boat in between them. They need one more boat, so Dee needs to get her skates on. She needs to take some risk. Here they go. Oh, look at that. They got the weed stick out. Someone's got to get a knife, surely.
Yeah, if you can reach the knife. I'm surprised they haven't canted the keel over and basically raised that leeward rudder out of the water enough to cut it free. But this is tricky. These are really, there's a bridle on the bottom of those marks, and there's going to be quite a lot of lines in the water.
Oh no, he's taking his hat off and having a look. That's always a bad sign. Sucking teeth and wondering how they're going to fix it.
There he goes, taking the shoes off. Someone's going to take one for the team here and jump in the water, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, there goes the shirt.
Look at this. Oh, he'll be so upset about this, angry. They clearly were squeezing for the top mark and caught it around the keel. No, it's around the rudder, right?
I think it's around the rudder, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're doing everything they can. They're doing everything they can to try and get away from it. Well, while they try and sort out that issue, let's go back towards the rest of the fleet and see what's going on. And Vestas 11th Hour Racing ahead of Turn the Tide on Plastic, but Dee Kafari's got to catch one of those boats. Team Brunel leading over Dongfeng Race Team, and then it's Team Axo Nobel, then Vestas 11th Hour Racing, then Turn the Tide on Plastic. But what happens if David Witt doesn't finish? DNF, they get an extra point, don't they?
I think they do, yeah. So then they would just need to be...
So that would be okay. If I mean, Dee Kafari's hoping that David Witt can't finish this race. We'll have to get our sharpen our pencils and look at the sailing instructions. What's the time limit? Anyway.
Ooh, I don't know the time limit, but they should be able to finish the race. But
Is there a time limit for finishing the race?
Time?
Okay, well, here we are with the leaders, Team Brunel right now. And they are doing very nicely. Pete Burling helming right now. And Melbourne, Catherine Schell from Melbourne, she is doing the Safety Beach Sailing Club, the Winter Brass Monkey Series. Christchurch, New Zealand, Melanie, nice to hear from you. Luciana from Brazil. Christopher watching from New Zealand. John Bancaret from Hamilton Island. Port Owen, South Africa. Klosters, Switzerland, Washington State. Great to have you all. Here we are with Team Brunel rolling up their masthead code 0 as they come into this bottom mark. Great pictures with Dongfeng Race Team behind us for this final Brunel in-port race. Okay, heads up here. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag have just managed to get themselves unhooked from the mark. Let's get a replay of that. Let's just look at all the spectator boats. This is not a happy time. We've all done it, Sally.
Yes.
So there they go. Wow, well done. They got themselves off the mark. Now, with the leeward mark rounding at the other end of the racecourse, Team Brunel going around. And there they go with their jib up. Just behind them is Dongfeng Race Team. Then Team AxoNobel. Wow, drama, boy oh boy.
Never a dull moment out here.
Never a dull moment in the Volvo Ocean Race. So, Dongfeng Race Team showing why they are skills abound. Here they are, second place. Okay, just talk us through this rounding, Sally.
So basically it's a straight in rounding, and they're going to furl up the sail there and turn up into the wind as they trim the jib on. Quite a nice timing on the furl, as it just finishing as the bow's coming up, trimming on the jib and the mainsail, so full hands on the pedestal, and they'll find a moment here to drop this A3 because it's quite slow to carry that upwind.
Yeah, there we go. As Dongfeng, looks like they just did a straight tack around there, and it was an extremely nicely timed furl of that masthead 0, as it was on Team AxoNobel after 9 months in practice.
Yeah, finally. But then, if you see there, Dongfeng still don't have their jib trimmed in, so nice timing, nice turn, but then maybe just missed one sheet.
Okay, well, Sally's got her pencil out. She's taking notes. There'll be a debrief later. Okay, Vestas 11th Hour Racing going for an even trickier manoeuvre here. Sally, talk us through this.
Yep, they're going to have to jibe around this mark, so they're just trying to get their kite full. Unless they're going to split to the other gate, they need to start furling this quite soon because it's going to be basically a 180-degree maneuver if they go for it.
They're going for the other gate.
There they go. They're going for the other gate, so they have a little bit more time. To me, there's been quite a left shift in the breeze, quite long port upwind and long starboard downwind. Wonder if we'll see a course change.
Yeah, okay, that's good to keep our eyes open for. And that's Vestas 11th Hour Racing. So they flare out that masthead code 0 so that there isn't too much pressure on it. If there's too much pressure, you can't actually roll it up, so you've got to give it that ease. Then they roll it up, and then they put a little bit of pressure on right at the end just to keep it nice and tight in the furl. We've talked about that in previous programs. You've got to have a nice tight furl on those masthead code sails, because otherwise it makes it very difficult to unfurl. Vestas 11th Hour Racing go around in 4th place. But as you said, Sally, probably not the most favoured side. Let's go down onto the water. Oh, it looks like there's something going on there with Di Kafari and Turn the Tide on Plastic. She's going to windward of that first left-hand mark. Okay, so we're looking at her jibing around. Talk us through this.
Yep, this is going to be basically a jibe into the rounding, but I like what they're doing. They need to gain Vestas 11th Hour, who've rounded the other gate, so they're going to take a little split here. Even if it's a little tricky maneuver, they're getting the A3 down, and they have a twist in their jib here, which can result in a broken top batten right there. The only thing they can do is see if they trim it out, but generally you're pretty lucky. There it goes, if those battens don't break, but they just got it through. It's a tricky maneuver. You don't have enough winches and you don't have enough hands to do all of that, to be dropping the A3 and jibing the jib and trimming it on at the same time.
Yeah, known as a bonner in the sailing world, and you can actually break those battens. Not good. Okay, let's go down onto the water to Bicey and Meso for the very latest.
Yeah, no, they got themselves a little tangled up there with a bit of a bonner on the top of the jib. I was clenching my teeth a bit watching that one come out, but they got away with it. Looks like the breeze has shifted pretty left here on the bottom of the racetrack. So there's nice pressure in the left, and the boats look like they're almost laying through, but maybe a little bit of a header to the right as they go halfway up the racetrack. But I'm very surprised by Mapfre here, actually. There hasn't really been anything significant to happen to them. They've always been, and it's so consistent, so they're quite a long way behind today. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, Brunel just showing the rest of the fleet a clean set of clogs, and Mapfre will be a little bit disappointed, but let's just cross our fingers here and see what happens between Turn the Tide on Plastics and Vestas 11th Hour.
Brilliant, Bicey. A clean pair of clogs. Why didn't I think of that? That is the quote of the day. Nice work. And Mapfre coming around that leeward mark. Now, Bicey, back down to you. Is there any chance that Di Kafari only needs one more place in between them to get it over Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag?
Well, if this breeze turns a little more left, which is maybe what Whitty was trying to do, move the marks for the actual race committee, but if it does go any more left, they have a fair chance of sneaking in front of Vestas 11th Hour. So let's see how this goes.
Okay, let's look at the graphic here. We'll look at the sequence of the situation as we... This is their current position. So Matt Frey around the leeward mark. Turn the tide on plastic on the left. They've got a lot to get back another boat here. But Team Brunel right now, the crucial thing is that Dongfeng are in second and Team Axo Nobel are in third. And that would give Team Brunel the podium position. They'd be tied on points, but Team Brunel would win through more first places in the import race series. So Sun Hun Kai Scallywag are just holding on. They are, despite them being in last, Di Kafari is only in fifth. She needs to be in fourth or better to go from seventh to sixth in the overall Volvo Ocean Race standings. We're looking at beautiful pictures of them bled in on the wheel, just trying to get everything. And there's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag in the background going down towards the bottom mark. So Turn the Tide and Plastic have done, well, part of what they needed to do. Can they do it all? I wonder what David Witt's got on his mind right now. Probably just learning another lesson. How many times do you need to learn that one? Don't hook the mark. Okay, let's go up into the helicopter. Conrad, give us the latest.
Well, I'm sitting here in front of Team Brunel and Dongfeng here, and we can see that the bow crew are getting their A3 ready for the hoist. And just like to point out, there is definitely a wind shift on the course, as we've seen. But more than that, it was Team Brunel that did the best job of soaking down on that last run. That's what put them in such a strong position now. It's going to be interesting to see whether they can do it again, because they are a little bit under attack by Dongfeng Race Team, and they're going to have to continue that spectacular performance of their last run in order to secure the points that we're talking about.
Well, good, Conrad, telling us it's the A3. How many times I need to be reminded of the difference between the A3 and the Masthead Code 0. It's been 9 months. But anyway, there we go, with the A3 up, Sally, right?
Well done, Andy. We're right there with you, buddy.
Okay. Team Brunel leading, Dongfeng Race Team in second, Team Axo Nobel in third. Then it's Turn the Tide on Plastic, showing slightly ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Well, certainly they're catching them. There's only 60 metres in this, as Bicey was saying. If there's a little bit of left-hand shift here, all that Turn the Tide on Plastic need to do is get ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Richard Mason, have they got a chance?
Yeah, I think so. We're right alongside them at the moment. I saw Vestas got very light. They did a couple of really down-speed tacks in the middle of the racetrack. They're just nudging into a little bit of breeze down there, but Turn the Tide are higher and faster and looking ahead uphill. There's good breeze on the water. So if they get a little more lift, they might even stay out to ease the sheets a little bit and put the bow down, just try and roll forward on them. So looking good here.
Wow. So this is it, folks, for an overall change in the leaderboard. If Turn the Tide on Plastic can get ahead of Vestas 11th Hour Racing, they will get the crucial 2 boats in between them and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. That will mean they finish 6th, and what a goal that would be after so much bad luck for Di Kafari. Can she squeeze it? But on the basis of some of these others, that is just the slide away right at the end. It's all on.
It is all on, and you can see the crew there hiking out as they can hopefully, like Richard said, put the bow down a tiny bit, get the boat moving a little faster right over Vestas 11th Hour. But you know, you couldn't write the script for this race so far. It's been quite crazy.
Right, it's wonderful. Okay, let's take us to the leaders right now. Team Brunel, Dongfeng Race Team, Axo Nobel. Remember, Team Axo Nobel want to get ahead of Dongfeng Race Team because this is for the podium place on the import race overall series. Team Brunel coming up towards the top mark right now. Very nice. Team Brunel sailing beautifully in this import race. They got the bit between the teeth, no problem at all. And Bauerbecking driving. Burling did the start in the first downwind leg, then he hands it over to the veteran, 8-time Volvo Ocean Race veteran Bauerbecking. Dongfeng Race Team. Here we go, Team Brunel still leading around the 2nd lap of the Brunel import race, doing a super job, sailing clean and tidy in the lead, Team Brunel. Bearing away, and this will be the deploy of the A3. Brilliant, that's the right sail to be using. Okay, going downwind, nice. Andrew Cape there just going up off the grind, isn't it? He goes to leeward and just has a look, helps to get the jib down, and has a look around the race course. And that tide is making it very tricky at the top there, Sally.
It sure is, and as the boats get squeezed into these two gate marks, they have to be quite careful, as we've already seen, to not snag one of the marks. And but they're also pushing it super hard, so they want to keep the boat speed up and turn that mark as close as possible.
Charles, with all his guests on board today, we've got tons of special VIPs. Not a lot of halyard on that A3 there, Sally. Is that...
Yeah, I think actually they're missing a bit of tack down, so they need to get the halyard up on the lock, and then they grind it from the bottom down. The tack, normally that happens just before the deploy.
There you go. Downwind race team got not enough tack on. Yes, here we go with Team Axo Nobel around in 3rd place. Now look at this. This is, well, from the drone. Look at that. Turn the Tide on Plastic have overtaken Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Wow. And that changes it on the overall race leaderboard. That puts Turn the Tide on Plastic in 6th and Team Sun Hunkai Scallywag in 7th. Sally.
Pretty awesome. And what we just saw there was Turn the Tide. They knew they had a ton of meters to make up, but they just did the right thing. They went to the favorite side of the race course. It happened to be a split with the Vestas 11th Hour, but they made their gains because of this shift and just making a right call. We'll see what happens here into this gate. Now Vestas 11th Hour is going to the favorite side of the course. Turn the Tide still has one tack in, and they have a gate to choose here. If they can get straight in front of Vestas 11th Hour and just control the race from there, they have a really good chance.
Okay, to Conrad Coleman in the helicopter, we're seeing some beautiful shots from you. Talk to us about that cross, Turn the Tide on Plastic and Vestas, Turn the Tide back in on it.
Well, absolutely beautiful. They did a spectacular job. Really clean. The key thing is to see who is going to win on the downwind here. We've got Vestas 11th Hour Racing already hoisting their A3, so they are going to be locked and loaded, ready to unfurl as soon as they hit the mark, whereas Turn the Tide on Plastic only now are starting their hoist. So they've got a bit on to get the sail up and ready. And actually, I was watching Team Axo Nobel and Dongfeng. They both had an absolute shocker when it came to unfurling that A3 at the top mark. That they hoisted the sail, it got caught up in the J1 that was already sort of big eased, and they actually had to take down the J1 before they could finish hoisting the A3. So even after 9 months, all of the little details are sort of still missing, or at least it shows that the teams are absolutely in the red zone, pushing hard, and sadly making a few mistakes.
Yep, Turn the Tide on Plastic. Well, just talk to us, Conrad, about how you've seen this boat improve. They've had some incredibly bad luck, particularly I think of that moment in Auckland when they were winning the leg. Talk to us.
Well, that's certainly true, and I think it sort of left a bit of a psychological scar on Dika Barry, because she often talked about being punted down by the red boats, but at the moment she's got one behind her. We can see the cross right now. Turn the Tide on Plastic going downwind, ready to deploy that A3. Matt Frey still on the upwind leg. So long as she can keep Matt Frey, the red boat, behind them, I'm sure that they'll go a long way towards keeping Dika Barry and just really cementing the progress that this team has made as they've gone around the world.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Conrad. And as Vestas 11th Hour Racing go around this top mark, Vestas 11th Hour Racing now unfurling their A3 as they head off downwind, and currently Team Brunel are equal on points in the import race series overall. Team Brunel and Team Axo Nobel have 50 points each. And so Team Axo Nobel are really trying to get ahead of Dongfeng Race Team. That's their crucial battle. And I can see top of screen, the two of them getting very close. Matt Frey already won it. They've already got the trophy. But really, it's whether Team Brunel can get 3rd place, so whether they can get on the podium ahead of Team Axo Nobel for the import race series, and whether Turn the Tide on Plastic can hold 2 boats behind them, currently Matt Frey and Vestas 11th Hour Racing, and that will mean they'll take a point up in the overall race scores. So those are the 2 races that we're concentrating on. Turn the Tide on Plastic, Team Sun Hunkai Scallywag, advantage D Kafari. Team Brunel and Team Axo Nobel for the import race final podium spot, advantage Team Brunel, but only by half a boat length right now, because Team Axo Nobel are putting the hammer down on Dongfeng Race Team. They're putting them under pressure, and Team Axo Nobel have to get around them. If Team Brunel finish first, Team Axo Nobel finish second, Axo Nobel take it, because they need boat between them. Team Brunel need a boat between them, and right now they have it in the Dongfeng Race Team. Down to gate number 5, the final downwind gate, and then it's just a beat to the finish. And as we've seen from the guys on the water, it is quite light to the right-hand side. Let's go down to Bicey and Richard Mason for this titanic tussle between Dongfeng Race Team and Team Axo Nobel.
Oh, fantastic. And they've just been headed down to the mark, which is telling us that the breeze is going a little further left. So it's turned into a bit of a soldier's course just for this last loop and a half. So Team Dongfeng Race Team and Axo Nobel, I tell you what, they're going to leave nothing on the table here. It's all pride to play for here, which may give Brunel the extra edge.
Okay, Meso, what do you have to say about matters?
Oh, well, it's fantastic to see Turn the Tide etch around them at the top mark there. It was a nice little, well played there. And they should be able to defend their position with the breezes. Sort of what we're seeing out here, like Bryce said, you know, she's going to be a bit of a soldier's march up and down. Should be good pressure. I'm just watching Bauer here. I see he's got a special guest on board for this victory. He's brought his wife along for what must be the end of an epic battle. So nice to see that.
Yeah, very good. Bauer got all the family on. Nice to see that as he jibes for the final leeward mark. He's clearly ahead. And while we'll get a quick moment from Conrad in the helicopter.
Yeah, lovely touch there. It must be great for Bowie's wife to be watching such a great performance from the team. You can see that they're cutting the A3, so it's all been it's been filled up right now as we speak. Looks like they're setting themselves up for a jibe into the right-hand mark. That'll mean that they're again on the favoured side on the way up. So this course holds no secrets for Bauer Becking and Pete Berlin. They're clearly doing a great job. They know the conditions, which side is favoured, and they're absolutely sticking to it. And then also, I'm watching now Dongfeng and Axo Nobel. They're in their little battle in the middle, and as you've said before, if they keep playing together, they keep that private tussle going, that's just going to allow Team Brunel to run away from it and get a home victory.
Okay, great pictures, thank you. And great scene setting from the helicopter as Team Brunel weren't too worried about their furl. Looked a little bit shabby, that furl. Doesn't matter though, right?
It doesn't matter because they're just in the process of dropping it here, and it is a tough drop to leeward, so maybe they're going to wait to do it in the tack, which I think will come up quite soon because they're probably actually on ley line to that top mark of the finish line. I think they'll just wait for 1 second to clear Axo Nobel's stern and go for a tack.
Yeah, key mark rounding right here for Dongfeng Race Team. No mistakes. They are going to try and stay ahead of Team Axo Nobel. No problem there. They're furling the A3 and then a jibe around, as you said. Bicey said slightly soldier's course. What is that? Ooh, tally.
Yep, another boner there on the top of the jib. We've seen that a few times now. Trimming it out right now is kind of the only way to go and just keep sailing this course. So we'll see if they are able to do that without snapping the batten. It looks quite tight to me.
Ooh, look at that. We'll just try and keep eyes on that left-hand batten as it doesn't help them here. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it comes out, but it doesn't help them because that slowed them down, and Team Axo Nobel are right into them with a better mark rounding. Oh, Dongfeng Race Team are going to try and tack in front of them. Are they going to have room to do that? That looks very close to me, and that looks like Nikolai Sersted having to put the bow down a bit there. I wonder if there'll be a flag on the play. Let's keep a close eye on the orange umpire boat, right-hand side of screen. And that will be very interesting. I'm not sure they had room there.
I'm not sure they had room either. There is green flag.
Green flag.
Tight one, close one.
Close one. We'll have that in the umpires debrief later. And after every one of these races, the umpires get together with the skippers and the rules advisors, the tacticians, and they talk through all of these incidents. And they have little magnetic boats that they take around on the table, and they recreate the scene out on the water and try and talk through it. But best not to take your magnetic boats in your hand luggage through customs, I'm told.
Didn't think about that.
Okay, Team Brunel leading on virtual right now, and Dongfeng Race Team have split from Team Axo Nobel. But here is Turn the Tide on plastic. Look, ahead of Mapfre and Vestas 11th Hour Racing, while Sun Hun Kai Scallywag way out there in the distance, and this will mean that Turn the Tide on plastic are going to take 6th place in the overall Volvo Ocean Race. team at Axo Nobel, left of screen. Just look at that. They're trying to get their A3 down, so the sail looks rather odd there. It's along the shrouds, but looks like that's coming down okay, Sally.
It's coming down okay. It's going to be a little more of a fight if it's just caught on that windward shroud.
Oh,
there.
that is a bad furl. That's what you call a bad furl. Like, look at it. It's supposed to...
Like a big marshmallow.
Yeah.
Just shoving it in the bag.
Yep. Not good at all there, as that's Emily Nagel, or is that Martina Grail? Emily Nagel, I think that is at the front there, just pounding on that sail. It's heavy.
It's heavy, and just that little bit of mushy furl makes it super awkward to actually manhandle. When it's nice and tight, you can actually, wing it around in its place really well.
Meanwhile, the scrap here between Mapfre and Vestas 11th Hour Racing is helping turn the tide on plastic, because Sunhunkai Scallywag still behind. Turn the tide on plastic extending will be harder to get caught with this battle going on right here. Charlie Enright now just to windward of Xavi Fernandez. That'll be Pablo Arate driving the Mapfre, but they've got quite a long way to go until this mark. And here come Turn the Tide on Plastic to windward. We're looking at the overall scores right now, and it is Turn the Tide on Plastic and Team Sunhunkai Scallywag tied on 25 points for the import race series, and that means that they will go ahead because they're already tied. And the overall race series, this will mean that Turn the Tide on Plastic gets 6th in the overall Volvo Ocean race. This was a massive goal for Di Kafari, and it looks like it is within her grasp. Don't let it go like, oh, maybe there's a penalty. What's going on? Oh, this could be bad for Di Kafari and her team. Supporters have Turned the Tide on Plastic taking a big, deep breath right now, because I think Vestas 11th Hour Racing have been given a penalty. Let's check in with the umpires. There's the helicopter going tight in on the umpire boat. Can't see it right now. Good work, Matt Connor, trying to see the umpire boat. Got nothing right now on comms, so we'll get back to you. Something happened there. And it's a question of whether Vestas 11th Hour Racing can do their penalty and remain ahead of Sunhunkai Scallywag. That's what Di Kafari is desperately hoping right now.
Just under 1,000 meters there on the tracker, so they should be able to do it. I think we might have missed the red flag, but it looked like a windward leeward on Mapfre and Vestas 11th Hour. So just a funny hiccup for them. Like, they just want to sail the end of the last race nice and clean. But once you get the penalty, you have to do the spin.
Well, we don't know if it was a spin or something. Anyway, it's something's gone down there. We're going to give you the info. Penalty on Vestas for not keeping clear of Mapfre. Windward leeward situation. That's the latest from the umpires. Let's go up to Conrad Coleman in the helicopter.
Yeah, that's right. It was quite a dramatic moment. The two of them approaching that leeward gate, but also engaging in a luffing match while furling their sails. So it was all on for them. But don't worry, Turn the Tide on Plastic were not involved at all. They're clear, and actually the more that those two fight it out, the better it is for Di Kafari. So they are clean, they're upwind, they're having a great job now. But just look, I don't know what image you're on at the moment, but next time you see a shot of Vestas 11th Hour Racing, you're going to see that was a very, very expensive penalty that put them way out the back and has now liberated Mapfre to go for a full charge now. So they've got no boats around them. They can focus on just charging back up this upwind lead.
Okay, Conrad, just tell us. Conrad, very quickly, just tell us, Vestas 11th Hour Racing comfortably still ahead of Sunhunkai Scallywag.
Miles ahead.
Okay.
Ahead. No worries there.
Okay, great. All right, well, that gives you, for those supporters of Sunhunkai Scallywag, grab another tissue, might be tears time, but for those supporters of Turn the Tide on Plastic, get the champagne on ice, because we could see a turnaround here. Now, the leaders of the Brunel import race, rather appropriately, Team Brunel, Bauerbecking driving for a fairy tale finish in this Brunel import race. There's Carl Langford, just happy to give a few tips there, I'm sure. Well, it's always good to give little tips when you're in the lead, huh, Sally?
Isn't that nice? Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of smiling and nice banter as they're just about to cross the finish line for the final import race.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to keep with pictures of them, and while we do, let's quickly go down on the water. Nick Bice.
Yeah, Pete Burling has just put the bow down, aiming for the finish. I think they wanted to try and get to the left here to give the Team Brunel support ship a little wave, and they're doing that as we speak. Very proud moment for them on such a fantastic race, and what a beautiful day.
What a beautiful day. Yeah, we've got pictures of Bauerbecking right now. He's just to windward, Carl Langford on the main. There's KP taking a seat. He's always happy to have a little sit down. They're the oldest man in the race at 57. Amazing what that must do, bashing around on these boats to your body. Here we go with the finishing line. There we go. The Volvo Ocean Race finishing line for the Brunel import race. And very appropriately, Bauer Becking and the hometown team, who had such an incredible comeback in the Volvo Ocean Race, seal a beautiful sunny day here in Den Haag with a win in the Brunel import race. It's Team Brunel. Fantastic sailing, well done. From wire to wire, from start to finish, they showed us all how it's supposed to be done in their home port. Very happy bunnies right there. And it looks like in second place, they've done everything they can. The overall winners of the Volvo Ocean Race, it's Dongfeng Race Team in second. And that means that Team Brunel did what they needed to do and put a boat in between them and Team Akzo Nobel. Team Akzo Nobel coming in towards the finishing line in third place. And Simeon Tiempont is going to rue that moment because they've put 1 point in between them, and Simeon Tiempont ends up fourth overall, tied on points with Team Brunel, but they take fourth overall for the import race series. Okay, that's Team Akzo Nobel just finishing there, and the next battle will be between Turn the Tide on Plastic and Mapfre. Can Di Cafari keep ahead of Mapfre and Vestas 11th Hour Racing to mean that they can tie the import race series with Sun Hun Kai Scallywag? That tie they would win for their better result in the last race for the import series, and that would give them the tie break for the overall series. Di Cafari to take 6th. My word, that'd be amazing. Let's listen in here on board Turn the Tide on Plastic. Okay, down on the water, Richard Mason. Looks like Di Cafari can hold on to this, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like she's looking good coming up here at the moment. A little higher, nice little bit of breeze, so she's well in control of Mapfre. If they just take it nice and easy, looks like they should lay the finish from there, but if not, they'll be one tacking in. So all they need to do is just keep themselves between Mapfre and the finish. Nice and simple.
Okay, up in the helicopter, Conrad Coleman, talk us through it.
Well, it's fantastic to see how this has played out, certainly in Di Cafari's favour. But while you were congratulating Team Brunel for going across the line, I was actually quite concerned because Mapfre had an epic turn of speed, and it did look like that they were a square with Turn the Tide on Plastic and the finish line. So there was a little bit of a risk just 30 seconds ago or a minute or so, but subsequently Mapfre has fallen behind. Don't know if that means that they were in a lull, or maybe it was Chubby that was sort of backing off to let D take the swim.
Okay, wonderful, Conrad. We're going to stick with Turn the Tide on Plastic, and we're going to go for those reactions because I think they will have figured this out for sure, as Turn the Tide on Plastic get all their luck coming just when they need it to finish. And 2 boats in between them and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. They take 6th in the import race series and 6th overall. Look at the celebrations. Brilliant, well done, Dees. Everyone so happy for her. She's worked so hard. Just behind her now in 5th place. And the overall winners of the import race series, Team Mapfre, come across the finishing line. Second in the overall series and winners of the import race series. There'll be plenty of prizes to give out tonight at the awards ceremony. Well done to Mapfre, overall winners of the import race series and 2nd overall in the Volvo Ocean Race. I've really enjoyed these import race series. They're always touch and go as to whether it's enough meaning, if there's enough grunt to it, but these have been brilliant right from the get-go in Alicante. We've had thrilling racing, and it's all come down to a bunch of great battles for the final race. So it's really good for not only us, for the spectators, but just gives us an idea of the short course racing and how hard these boats are to sail on the short course, how hard they are to sail all the way around the world. On board now with Charlie Enright and Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Jenna Mai Hansen in her usual position on the aft pedestal there, grinding away on the winches. Sally, what do they call it? Winching, grinding.
Grinding. I don't know. It's a big grind. Winches are the winching. Grinding the winches.
Okay, down on the water, Nick Bice.
Well, I'll tell you what, everyone will be so proud of what they've just achieved. 9 months around the world, fantastic offshore sailing, fantastic inshore sailing, and they left nothing out here on the water today, and hands together for Dee Kafari and her team to take that extra position, and that would make them even prouder. So well done to all, well done to everyone.
Yeah, Dee Kafari certainly not had the best of luck on a few occasions, particularly on some of the big races. Bicey, I'll come back to you in just a moment. We got Festus 11th Hour Racing cross the finishing line to take 5th overall in the import race series. Bicey, some great luck finally for Dee Kafari right there.
No, and very well deserved, actually. They will be 100% prouder than punch tonight. I was chatting to Liz Wardley the other day, and this has been some of the most excellent sailing that she's ever done. She's very proud of bringing through a great team, and Dee must be even prouder.
Yeah, well done to their team, that mixed team that they put together of a few veterans, but mainly novices on board. All come from different areas of dinghy racing and the Olympics, but they've blooded together an incredibly good team. And here we go with Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. And there we've got Ryan Fisher driving the boat. That is Fisher's son. And that is a special moment here. And in the Volvo Ocean Race, there are special moments everywhere you look. And this one of the biggest. We think of John Fisher. We think of also the Rookies Award that's going to be given tonight in memory of Hans Horowitz, who fell overboard from ABN AMRO 2 coming into the UK just over 10 years ago. So this is a race not without danger, and here we see some of the results. There's Ryan Fisher, great to see him driving Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and Annemieke Bess right next to her. She's been a real stalwart for the team, hard as nails. Hard as nails, just always the positive energy, and you can see her there just, helping him drive the boat nice and smoothly, giving the encouragement. And this team is really a dynamic team, how they support each other and everything they've been through, quite a tribute. Yeah, okay, down on the water by sea as Sun Hun Kai Scallywag come towards the finish.
Yeah, I mean, what a journey this team has been on, and as Whitty said the other day, he probably underestimated this whole race from all aspects, and he's going to go away, have a think, and I'm sure we're going to see the Scallywags back, but a very proud moment for everyone. What a journey. Yeah, excellent. Okay, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag coming across the finishing line for 7th overall in the import race series and 7th overall in the overall Volvo Ocean Race. As they cross the finishing line, David Witt and his motley crew, if ever there was one, on team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Well done to them, and very special moments on board. Okay, they're just going past Macfrey, as you can see. We're on board with them as the camera just stabilizes and the keel centralizes now as they ease the sails out a little bit. And those are the scenes that we can see just off the beach in Den Haag. Massive, massive crowd. Let's take a look at the race results for the Brunel Import Series. 7th, as we saw, having hooked the mark, it was Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. This is the race. In 6th, Vestas 11th Hour Racing. In 5th, it was Mapfrey, then Turn the Tide on Plastic. But you can see the crucial bit was the Import Race Series final rankings, because Tide on Plastic managed to get those 2 boats in between them. That pushes Sun Hun Kai Scallywag down to 7th. It's all who finished on the better race, the last race. Vestas 11th Hour Racing 5th, Axo Nobel in 4th. They get pushed down in the Import Race Series final ranking. That doesn't affect overall, but Team Brunel now take the bronze medal position, and in 2nd, Dongfeng Race Team overall, and the winners who were crowned in Gothenburg is Mapfrey with Xavi Fernandez. Let's take a look at some of the stats of that race. Tacks and jibes, look at that, the 3 boats out front. Well, they only did 9 tacks and jibes between them, Sally.
That's right, and you can see the big difference there where there's 14 or more jibes on the remaining 4 boats. It just means they didn't have a clear lane, and as it became a bit of a soldier's course, as the guys said, you don't have to do that many tacks or jibes around the course.
Yeah, and VMG particularly good for Team Brunel right there on the bottom right-hand side, and average speed similarly.
Yep, and we've seen that before. The leaders basically being having the highest VMG, they can get their nose out and they can control the race from the front, and that's what happened.
Okay, that's those are the stats, and as we look down onto the water, let's see if we can get a word from Bauer Becking, the skipper of the winning boat for the Brunel import race. Bauer, what a fairy tale finish!
Yeah, we are really happy about that. Of course, not only for our sponsors, but as well for the Dutch public that we won, and AXO a third place. You can't have a much better finish than this.
Yeah, and Bauer, I mean, you've been sailing in these waters your whole life. You've done 8 Volvo Ocean races. What's it like to have such a crowd? The supporters and the spectator fleet looks massive out there.
Yeah, of course, it's really nice to finish the race here where I started my career offshore, and of course it's a bit of local knowledge. I think it was pretty straightforward today, and Pete did an excellent start, and so happy to finish it this way.
So we look back sometimes to Connie van Riechhausen, an inspiring force in Dutch sailing. What are the tips that you've got for some of the younger viewers that are watching, some people who want to get into sailing or even dream of the Volvo Ocean Race?
Well, I think for the young kids, I think most important, first do an education, just finish an education, because if you don't have an education and you're actually not making the Volvo Ocean Race, then you have something to fall back on. And of course, just be really aggressive with approaching people. Just approach the best people, the best boats, and see that you get it right. That's what my advice will be.
Okay, from Bauer Becking, go to school, do your homework, but keep sailing. Bauer, just a final word in Dutch for all your fans, please.
Ja, iedereen super bedankt voor de support die we gehad hebben. Ik denk het laatste winnen is de icing op de cake voor ons. Dus ik hoop dat we over 3 jaar er weer bij zijn met een nieuw Nederlands team. En daar gaan we ons best van doen. Maar nu dus op dit moment over en uit vanuit Den Haag.
Excellent. Congratulations. Well done, Bauer Becking and Team Brunel win the Brunel import race. Very appropriate. Thanks, Bauer. Okay, Bauer Becking doing a great job as always of his post-race interviews, and let's see the overall scores. The final rankings, Dongfeng race team take it with 73 points. Charles Caudrelier, and as he was keen to point out, his whole team, sailors, shore crew and the like. In second, Matt Frey, Xavi Fernandez. In third, Team Brunel and Bauer Becking. In fourth, Team AXO Nobel with Simeon Tiempont. In fifth, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Charlie Enright. In sixth, a turnaround from yesterday, Turn the Tide on Plastic, D. Kafari just edges it over David Witt and Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, all on that final race. DLV very happy about that. Those are the final overall rankings for the Volvo Ocean Race. Well, Sally, quite a drama. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, what an amazing way. I mean, we had an amazing finish here a few days ago, and what an exciting import race, changing things up even at the final leaderboard. But, you know, my hat's off to all these sailors. Deserving isn't even the right word. They've all had an incredible accomplishment and will share the experience that they all have just had racing around the world, and finally the finish of the Volvo Ocean Race.
Yeah, well, we'll thank Conrad up in the helicopter, Niall back in Alicante, all the TV teams. Would thank Bicey and Richard Mason down on the water, but the social media, the TV, all of the output from the Volvo Ocean Race has been groundbreaking. It's been wonderful fun. It's been a blast. This isn't the end. The race now will do what the very best teams do. We'll celebrate tonight and tomorrow the start of the work to put in for the next race, the planning, the vision, and the goals to build on the successes here and make the next one even better. Well, we've had a blast, the racing's been fun, and the drama has lasted right to the end. Thanks to all of you for following along. We hope you've taken a little inspiration, maybe to use a little less plastic, to take a little step further on your next adventure, to support a friend or foe in time of need, to embrace diversity, perhaps even put a new team together, or to use an old team of friends to finish a lifelong goal. But most importantly, let's smile and have fun whatever you do. See you soon on the ocean somewhere around the world. This is the Volvo Ocean Race standing by, and we'll leave you with a wrap-up of leg 11, the final race of the Volvo Ocean Race.
The first competitive action of the 2017-18 edition was the Alicante Import Race, which saw Mafre send out an early warning to the rest of the fleet as they confirmed themselves as a race favourite, convincingly winning on home turf. The road to the start wasn't as smooth for Dutch entry Team Axel Nobel. Just days before the start of leg 1, skipper Simeon Team Point was replaced, prompting a court case in the Netherlands that reinstated him just in time.
5 seconds to go.
Leg 1 was a short sprint through the Strait of Gibraltar to Lisbon. Vestas 11th Hour Racing held on to a small lead to take the win over Mafre and Dongfeng Race Team. An intriguing start to the offshore action. Leg 2 was a classic, 7,000 miles south through the doldrums to find the trade winds towards Cape Town. The fleet set off from Lisbon heading straight into over 30 knots of wind, the first real test for the teams and the boats, an early taste of what lay ahead in the Southern Ocean legs.
I can't do 19 days of this, no one can.
Mafre once again showed pure boat speed and tactical prowess, getting south early to get around the South Atlantic High, holding off the others in a drag race to the finish line in South Africa. Leg 3, a monster. 6,500 miles to Melbourne, the first experience of the Southern Ocean for many, and the first double-point scoring leg. The fleet took off south to find the big winds and big waves. More drama for Team Axel Nobel. Whilst racing in 4th place, serious damage to the mast track meant the team slowed to attempt a complicated fix at sea. A painful journey to the finish line would see them finish last. A jibing battle between the leading 2 red boats of Mafre and Dongfeng Race Team saw multiple lead changes as they pushed as far south as they could to the ice exclusion zone. Mafre finally getting the better of the Chinese team, leading the charge north to a Christmas Eve finish in Melbourne. After a welcome festive rest period in the southern Australian city, the fleet set out back north, encountering another tricky crossing of the doldrums, which saw Sun Hun Kai Scallywag roll the dice and opt to cut the corner heading east to lead the fleet towards their homecoming in Hong Kong, though they didn't have it all their own way.
Hey, runner! Keep going. Can you see him best? Nipper, out of the way! Can you see him? Hold, just hold, hold! Give me a big stern, mate. We're trying to find new ways to lose the race, though, I must say.
They held out for a fantastic first win in front of their home crowd in the heart of the city. Sadly, approximately 30 miles from the finish, Vestas 11th Hour Racing were involved in a collision with a non-racing vessel, which resulted in the fatality of a crew member from the other boat. Vestas 11th Hour Racing suffered serious hull damage, meaning they would not be able to rejoin the race in time for leg 6. The best option was to send the boat on a container ship to Auckland for the necessary repairs. A Volvo Ocean Race first was the import race held in Guangzhou. Thousands of Chinese fans came to see their local heroes on board Dongfeng Race Team, but it wasn't to be their day as they snagged a mark at the start of the race, leaving them in last place. Mafre continued their winning ways in the import series as they mastered the currents of the Pearl River to take the win. Leg 6 was almost the reverse of Leg 4 as the teams chose their routes back south to Auckland. But for the first few days of the leg, the fleet would sail in the opposite direction to where they needed to go in order to find the stronger breeze.
I think Auckland is over there, and we're going, I don't know why, but KP must have a really good reason that we're going there.
Finally, the fleet turned south for an easier than usual doldrums crossing. Team Axel Nobel were the first through the light winds and took a slim lead over Sun Hun Kai Scallywag that they managed to hold on to all the way to the finish in Auckland to become the 4th boat to win a leg in this edition of the race. David Witt, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag were hot on their heels, finishing on the podium for a 2nd consecutive leg. Leg 7 posed a significant challenge. 7,600 miles through the fiercest ocean on the planet. The sailors knew that this leg would not be easy.
This is the kind of leg where you can lose so much, a lot of stress, and it's going to be tough.
Within days, the fleet were battling 40-knot winds, huge swells and freezing temperatures. With the fleet constantly jibing along the southern ice limits within the furious 50s, Team Brunel squeezed into the lead.
Yeah, the technical situation right now, it's I think about 1,500 miles to go to the Horn. We are in the lead, so that's the good news. We've been going very nicely the last couple of days.
On March 25th, everything changed for David Witt's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. At approximately 1300 UTC, race control in Alicante was informed of a serious situation. British sailor John Fisher had been swept overboard in 35 knots of wind and a difficult sea state. The team conducted an exhaustive search for several hours in extremely challenging conditions, but were unable to recover their teammate. With the weather forecast due to deteriorate further, they retired from the racing to head for landfall in Chile. The news sent shockwaves throughout the fleet.
It affected us all quite emotionally. We were very close to Scallywag as a team.
Say that our thoughts are with the Scallywag crew and all John's family.
Fish as an individual had been a huge supporter of what we were doing and had really made an effort to integrate with the team and talk to all the members.
We want to give some strength to the guys on board Scallywag, the whole team of course onshore. But personally I know unfortunately how difficult it is.
And you know, he always gave me some words of encouragement.
And I hope to see them safely on shore very, very soon.
As Sun Hunkai Scallywag headed for Chile, the other 6 teams were racing through extreme weather conditions. Mafre was suffering as they attempted to fix damage to their mast track from earlier in the leg. But then as they approached Cape Horn, the Spanish team's mainsail split into 2 pieces. This forced them to stop in the lee of Cape Horn, make repairs and nurse their boat into Itajaí. Vestas 11th Hour Racing rounded Cape Horn in second behind Team Brunel. The next day, disaster struck as their mast came down in the lumpy seas of the South Atlantic.
Is everybody in a safe place back there?
The team made their way to the Falkland Islands where they salvaged a jury rig, which they would use in a race against time to make the start of their next leg in Brazil. Team Brunel held fast, with Dongfeng race team snapping at their heels to claim their first victory after a disappointing first 6 legs of the race. Although victory was bittersweet for skipper Bauer Becking.
Yes, it has been an epic leg. Thank you very much for the congratulations. But I think we're a little sad in our heart, very sad in our heart. We know why. John Fisher's loss sits very deep with us. But of course, sport-wise, we sailed a very nice leg, so we're confident with that.
As the rest of the fleet were finishing the leg in Itajaí, Sun Hunkai Scallywag had made the tough decision to keep participating in the race in John's
The best thing we can do in John's memory is get on the job, get on with it on Sunday. You know, if he was standing behind me right now, he'd be telling me to harden up. Don't be soft and get on with it, and that's what we're going to do on Sunday.
Leg 8, a push back into the Northern Hemisphere. On paper, a simple reach all the way to Newport, Rhode Island, but it would prove anything but. For the first few days, upwind conditions demanded strategic risk-taking, and it was D. Kafari's turn the tide on plastic that made the best of it, leading the fleet around the corner of Brazil with another equator crossing on the horizon.
Everybody's ready to jump in front of the others.
As the breeze shut down off the coast of Newport and with thick fog engulfing the boats, Mafre crept past Team Brunel just meters from the line. Delight for Xavi Fernandez's team, disappointment and frustration for Bauer Becking. With the scores at the top of the leaderboard tightening up, the Leg 9 transatlantic crossing with double points would be key to winning the overall title. The teams flew out of Newport and were quickly into the big winds of the North Atlantic. Difference of opinion of how to find their way around the low pressure saw a big split in the fleet. However, when the 7 boats converged, they found themselves reaching along in record-breaking conditions.
Pretty good at that angle.
5 of the teams broke the Volvo 65 24-hour distance record. However, it was Team AkzoNobel who went one step further in setting a new outright Volvo Ocean Race record. 602.54 miles were covered by Simeon Team Point and crew, an impressive feat in the one design class.
I would have bet the house you couldn't do 600 in one of these boats.
While Team AkzoNobel were writing themselves in the history books, it was the other Dutch team that were victorious, taking the maximum 14 points at the finish line in Cardiff. Bauer Becking and his team were on the charge towards the top of the leaderboard.
You know, you have good moments, you have bad moments. But I think right now, I think the team is in a really good fashion. I think as well, you can start dreaming about things sometimes. You can start thinking about this is actually really possible. But I think that the really good thing is we're feeling all good, and we actually think we can win this thing.
After a light and fickle start to leg 10, and with multiple lead changes, the fleet passed the top of Scotland and found themselves once more in tough conditions, blasting across the North Sea in 30+ knots of breeze.
Do you promise me these are the last days of water, getting water in our faces? It's been a tough old race for having plenty of water over the deck and lots of wind. I guess we'll try and enjoy the last of it and be glad when it's over.
Only a stellar performance from Team Brunel would see them with the chance of the overall win in The Hague. And incredibly, they cruised past first Dongfeng race team and then Mafre. The once invincible reaching speeds of the Spanish boat had been overcome. Finishing in the Swedish city of Gothenburg once more on the top step of the podium meant 3 teams were now tied at the top of the leaderboard on 65 points. Over 44,000 miles of racing completed, and it was all to come down to the last 900-mile sprint to the ultimate destination, The Hague. The order the top 3 would finish the leg would be the order they stand on the final podium. The final leg was to include a rounding of a waypoint in the city of Aarhus. Dongfeng race team were first around with Mafre in hot pursuit. A special moment for Danish flag Vestas 11th Hour Racing, rounding in third to the cheers of the home crowd. The real challenge for the final leg will be the decision of which way through the traffic separation zones to take. Either stay offshore playing the shifts or hug the coast of the Netherlands in the hope of better breeze. Dongfeng race team were the first to lay their cards on the table, bearing away and heading towards the coastal option. But Team Brunel and then Mafre opted to stay offshore. The Chinese boat knew that in the short term they would lose miles to their opponents, whilst Team Brunel and Mafre were also concerned that Dongfeng race team would have the favourable conditions in the final miles of the leg. An agonising final night, not just for the 3 teams, but also for their fans, as over 9 months of racing would boil down to the final nerve-wracking miles. Until just 6 miles out, no one knew who would prevail and emerge victorious. The final mark of the race saw Dongfeng race team pass first, just 3 miles ahead of Mafre, and with a huge flotilla of boats surrounding them, they crossed the final Inmarsat finish line with emotions running high. Charles Cordrelia realising his dream and etching the name of Dongfeng race team on the trophy after skippering his team to victory in the 2017-18 Volvo Ocean Race.